Hey everybody, this is Alan from Woodcrest Bonsai. And yesterday I went to a plant show and I got 2 new babies. Can't help myself. The tree on the left is a fiddle leaf fig, but it is a dwarf because fiddle leaf figs get leaves that are absolutely massive. But this is called a bambino. And as you can see, it was $20, but it had been reduced to only $5. So how can you beat that? So now it has some new growth. It has a new little baby leaf coming. And it did die back, so you can see the dieback here. And I'm not sure how easy it is to... Oops, just knocked over the Crepe Myrtle. Not sure how easy it is to see, but the dieback goes all the way to here. So I'll just take my concave cutters and I'm just going to chop off this part. And that will give it some instant taper and some movement. And so I bought this because I was inspired by Nigel Saunders on the Bonsai Zone, his rubber tree that had reduced, and it wasn't even a dwarf, so this is a dwarf form. So this should be very interesting and fun to work on. And that's really all I'm going to do with this guy. I don't know how well rooted it is. Of course, that's easy enough to find out. Oh, it's got plenty of room. Plenty of room to grow. So he stays in the same pot. Cut the dead part off. And I'm just going to let it grow. Probably all year, just see what happens. I may even attempt to take some cuttings, depending. Give it some good fertilization and just let it take off, and then we'll see what happens from there. The other one is a dwarf crepe myrtle, and it's in a 4-inch pot, and it's got some decent movement, and it's actively growing quite nicely. I do not know what variety it is. It has some decent nabari even. Just not perfect, but still pretty decent. So this guy is going to get a bigger pot right away, today, within the next few minutes. Because I want this to grow as big as it can get, even though it's a dwarf. And hopefully it will flower in the summer. Right now it's the middle of April, and these guys flower, depending on the variety, somewhere between June through July, August. And most of them, it's, around the end of June or something like that. So then I'm going to try to get some seed. I may also attempt to do some cuttings, but once again, with the first tree, this will be my stock plant, and it has some decent movement, and you can see it's been cut back. There's the one cut back right there. And so, if we go like that, it's already got the kind of movement that I like. But right now it's just, I'm going to pot it up. Crepe myrtles are deciduous trees that go completely dormant in the winter, and that's really when you do the major root work. So when I pot it up, all I'm going to do is attempt to keep any circling roots that are on the very top from continuing. So that's all I'm going to do with that. So I need to go get my stuff, and then we'll get started. Okay, so here we go. The only work I'm going to do on this, I'm going to take that leaf off because it looks like it's going to fall off anyway. And then if we sort of zoom in here, I think I'm going to take this leaf off too, so we can see what we're doing better. So there's the stump. It's growing from here. Simple concave cutters. Give it a chop. Boom, done. That's it. That's all I'm doing on that guy. It does have some commercial fertilizer. You can see the little green dots. Can you see those little green dots? That's fertilizer. It's a slow release pellet, but it's a more commercial product, which I have 100 pounds of that. So I'll give it some more of that. And then the other guy is just the crepe myrtle that I'm going to repot. And it's in a little 4-inch, and I'm going to put it into a 6-inch bulb pan. So as far as height, I mean, this pot is quite tall compared to how big around it is, but it should fit right into the bulb pan. Just boom, perfect. I mean, no problem whatsoever. However, like I said, I want to take a little bit of an inventory on the surface roots. Make sure there's none circling. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just very gently going to chop like this. There may be some roots circling down in here, but I can't really mess with that because this is the wrong time of year. Crepe myrtles are dormant trees, or not tropical trees. They're not tropical trees. They're temperate trees that go dormant, lose all their leaves, and then the winter is when I'm really going to do any kind of major root work. And we're talking, next January, and it's only April. So the only reason I'm putting it into a bigger pot is to try to pump more growth out of it, get more flowers, and attempt to take some seed. So I've got my tray of soil, which is my own homemade mix. Honestly, I've never found a good bagged soil that didn't degrade so quickly that it just all turned to mush way too soon. And I'm not even going to say brand names, but you know what I'm talking about. And the problem is I live so far south, and it's so hot, so humid, so rainy in the summer, that those kinds of soils they just turn to mush. And we have one little tiny bit of dead right there. So I'm going to take that off. And if I was going to style this, a lot of this stuff coming up here would come off because it's, going right up into the plant. But right now, I want to leave as much of it on there as I can to try to get as much flowering as I can to get as many seeds as I can. I want it all. All right, so here we go. And as I just put it in there, there's room at the base for more soil. So my own homemade mix, which is dried leaves that have been sifted through strainer, and then a little tiny bit of bagged commercial potting soil. And then I also add another little tiny bit of bulk commercial potting soil that once again I'm able to buy from wholesalers. And they buy it, 50 yards at a time. Okay. So like I said on the fiddle leaf fig, aftercare for that is just give it another good fertilization and then just water. And this guy's pretty much the same. Whenever I'm adding my organic mix to a plant, I try not to jam it down too much. Let it settle naturally, because it will. And this is a very, very well drained mix, even though it's 100% organic. All right, there we go. 2 new babies. And I really wish I knew what variety this was, but the people selling it didn't know, and I may never either. I do have an interesting story, though. I was a landscaper most of my life and a wholesale grower way back 40 years ago. And I planted a dwarf crepe myrtle in the landscape of a house that I still drive past in my neighborhood. It's kind of like not in my neighborhood, but there's a shortcut to get into town, and I love that shortcut because there's no traffic signals, there's very little plain traffic, it's just 2 lanes, 30 miles an hour, but you take this beautiful winding shortcut, and then boom, you're right there in town. So it's fantastic. So I passed by that house, and I put that dwarf crepe myrtle in the ground at least 30 years ago, and it's still only about 5 feet high. So that's pretty cool. So there we go. Now, grow, quick, soon. I want to see it. Yes. People say, bonsai needs so much patience. I say, no, it doesn't. It needs dedication. The time goes by. I can be messing around on my computer or doing some other mindless task, or I can be working on my trees. And I realize, I understand the patience part. Anyway, so there we go. 2 new babies. Should we bring him into the view a little better? And if you're curious about what this dude did, it is called Bambino, which of course I believe is Spanish for baby. So I have the feeling that right now these leaves, this size, which is about the size of the palm of my hand, is probably as big as they're going to get. But you can see there's some much smaller little leaves. But I still do want it to gain a little more stature, and then I may try to take some cuttings, etc., etc. So it seems I can't go anywhere without buying new bonsai, but that's okay. It gives me something else to focus on, something else to look forward to. So if you want to look forward to seeing how these guys develop and what happens over time, there's my head in the okay, I'll get out of the way. Then subscribe and hit the notification bell. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Aftercare on these guys is that I'm going to water both of them almost immediately. Give the ficus, because it's rooted out already fairly well, give it some extra fertilizer. I may wait a little tiny bit on this guy. I don't like to over fertilize a newly repotted tree. Let it grow. It's obviously got some fertilizer in the old soil. Give it a week or 2. If I see nice new growth continuing on, then I will give it some decent fertilizer. So that's it for today. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.